Good morning. It is Tuesday, April the 4th, and this is The Drill. I'm Ron, your host, the only true conservative in the United States today, welcoming all the butchers, bakers, and candlestick makers. Today, the daily declaration for spiritual warfare, the Pledge of Allegiance, and the last chapter that I'm going to be reading in the book called Power Hungry, and then we'll see. We'll have perhaps some additional thoughts. Let's see. So right now we're going to the declaration for spiritual warfare. I will slay the dragon that is in the sea. I've divided the sea with my strength, and I've slain the dragon that is in the sea. I have broken the head of Leviathan in pieces, and I gave him as meat to those who inhabit the wilderness. I've drawn Leviathan out with a hook and snared his tongue with the line of my judgment, though there is no one else who is so fierce that he would dare to stir up Leviathan from the deep. Yet he cannot stay hidden from my power. My faithfulness will surround you. I rule the raging of the sea, and when its waves rise, I will still them. Do not fear the demonic dragon of the seas. His power is ineffectual over you, because I have sought him out and destroyed him. Prayer declaration. O Lord, break the heads of the dragons in the waters. Break the heads of Leviathan in pieces, and break the strength of his neck. Lord, you rule the sea and all that is in it with your power, and you will not allow the evil waters of the dark to flood over my life. Amen. Let's see here. Oops. Good. Now we're going to set up the other book, Power Hungry, and then let's see here. So right now we're going to go ahead and do the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. And now I'm going to go ahead and read the chapter, actually not chapter 9, I thought we were going to do chapter 9, chapter 10 of the book Power Hungry. Denmark provides an energy model for the United States. He's in this section, he's got it divided up into sections, and this section is about energy, green energy myths. And so in this chapter he's saying the Denmark as a role model is a myth. And so, but this is an excellent book because it promotes, in a manner of speaking, petroleum, natural gas, and coal. And that's what we should be doing as true conservatives, not just fighting against wind power and whatnot. We need to be promoting the status quo. We make not only the presumption for the status quo, we promote the status quo. We go out and say, this is the way it is. It's petroleum, it's, let's say, oil, natural gas, and coal. What's wrong with that? Okay? And so that's where you start. And until you get a satisfactory answer, we say no in terms of domestic policy. We say no to renewables. Now, the individual, if you as an individual, again, want to have a windmill in your backyard, if you want to put solar panels on your house, so long as you're not dragging down the value of the homes in your neighborhood, you're free to do so. If you want to do it because, hey, I don't feel like paying the electric company all that, fine. Have at it. Have a great time. If you're doing it because you think you're a leader and a change agent, knock it off. Okay, nobody's impressed with it. So this is, I'm going to be reading through this book or this chapter real quick. It's a rather long chapter, but I'm going to do what any of you could do, which is simply reading the topic sentence of every paragraph. You get through it quicker. There's a lot of excellent books that people that are conservative or think of themselves as conservative or want to be conservative should be reading. And in order to get through those books quicker, one excellent way of doing that is simply to read the topic sentence of every paragraph. So, to the book. Advocates for renewable energy love Denmark. America's leading energy cheerleaders love to cite Denmark as the model to be copied. In August 2008, New York Times columnist Tom Friedman held up the Danes as the model for the United States. In mid-2009, Joshua Green, a senior editor at Atlantic Monthly, wrote a long article about renewable energy bemoaning the fact that the United States had not done more to embrace renewable energy. While all of the wind power and happiness in Denmark makes me want to fly to Copenhagen for a cup of coffee and a hug, a close look at Denmark's energy sector shows that its embrace of wind power has not resulted in energy independence, nor has it made a major difference in the country's carbon dioxide emissions, coal consumption, or oil use. Thomas Friedman may like the idea of energy independence, but the data shows that Denmark is not energy independent. It's not even close. Green's claim that Denmark doesn't import any oil is true. Denmark is an oil exporter. Alas, the hard facts about Denmark appear to matter little to America's leading purveyors of energy happy talk. Once again, we must look back at the numbers. Between 1999 and 2007, according to data from the Danish Energy Agency, the amount of electricity produced from the country's wind turbines grew by about 136%. By the beginning of 2007, wind power was accountable for about 13.4% of all electricity generated in Denmark. Denmark may be leading the world in wind power installation and production, but the variability of wind assures that Denmark's production of coal-generated electricity will continue to rise and fall depending on the weather. As Hugh Sharman, a British-born energy analyst who lives in Denmark, put it, the Danes are providing an electricity subsidy to their neighbors. Put another way, Denmark's wind turbines often produce surplus electricity that the country cannot use. Thus, that power must be exported. In September 2009, the Danish Center for Political Studies, known as CEPOS, a Copenhagen-based think tank, came to the same conclusion as Sharman, declaring that this exported wind power paid for by Danish householders brings material benefits in the form of cheap electricity and delayed investment in new generation equipment for consumers in Sweden and Norway, but nothing for Danish consumers. None of this is aimed at belittling Denmark. Thanks to their government's exorbitant tax rates, the Danes pay some of the highest electricity rates in the world. In 2008, electricity rates were even higher, with Danish residential customers paying 38 cents per kilowatt hour, or nearly 4 times as much as U.S. residential customers who were paying about 10 cents per kilowatt hour. While Danish homeowners are getting spanked by expensive electricity, Danish motorists are getting absolutely mugged at the service station. In late 2008, Danish drivers were paying an average of $5.83 per gallon. In the United Kingdom, $5.45, and in the United States, the average is $2.12. Although Friedman, Levins, and Green want to hold up Denmark as a model to be emulated, the brutal facts show that Denmark is even more reliant on oil as a percentage of primary energy than the United States is. But given the global worries about climate change and carbon dioxide, the key issue for Denmark is this. Has wind power made a difference in its carbon dioxide emissions? In 2008, the European Environment Agency released a report that analyzed the progress the European countries are making toward their carbon emission reduction targets under the Kyoto Protocol. If Denmark's huge wind power sector were reducing carbon dioxide emissions, you'd expect the Danes to be bragging about it, right? Well, guess what? They're not. In early 2009, the operator of Denmark's electricity and natural gas grids published a handsome brochure available on its website entitled Wind Power to Combat Climate Change: How to Integrate Wind Energy into the Power System. It is critical to note that this Danish energy company does not say that wind will cut carbon emissions, only that it could. Despite all this, the name of the energy company is Energinet. Energinet is certain that someday soon, real soon, Danes will be driving electric cars. And when they do so, those cars will, quote, absorb surplus wind power, significantly reduce transport sector carbon dioxide emissions, and help to balance the power system if the batteries are charged or drained as required, unquote. Though the Danish government is pushing electric cars, EnergyNet is not making any claims about the ability of wind power to cut carbon dioxide emissions. Nor has Denmark seen a significant decrease in its total carbon dioxide emissions from all sources of electricity generation, transportation, and the like over the past 2 decades. Denmark saw a significant increase in its overall electricity use during the same time period, with consumption rising from 28.8 billion kilowatt hours in 1990 to 35 billion kilowatt hours in 2007. Given that population data, several key interrelated questions emerge. Has Denmark been able to keep its carbon dioxide emissions flat because of its slow-growing population? Is the emissions rate holding steady because of the exorbitant electricity and motor fuel taxes? Or is the increased use of domestic wind production and imported hydropower holding the emissions rate down? There's no clear answers to those questions, but EnergyNet says that carbon dioxide emissions from power generation declined slightly in 2007, but that this decline was not due to wind power. Nevertheless, give the Danes their due. They're doing some things right. Between 1999 and 2006, Denmark's carbon intensity, that is the amount of carbon dioxide emitted per unit of gross domestic product, declined by nearly 11%. But the reality is that even amidst all the praise for Denmark's efforts, the United States is doing as well, and in some cases better than, Denmark in terms of carbon. Although foreign journalists love to talk about Denmark's wind sector, they seldom look at the country's oil and gas business. Denmark has become largely self-sufficient in oil and gas, not because it's more virtuous or because it's using more alternative energy, but because it has fully committed to drilling in the North Sea. And the Danes are continuing the development of the North Sea. In 2008, Denmark signed a new exploration license for more offshore drilling, and 2 applications for additional licenses were submitted to the Danish Energy Agency. So how does Denmark's oil and gas production compare with its wind production? As stated above, in 2007, Denmark's wind power sector provided 7.1 billion kilowatts of electricity, and which works out to about 19,400 megawatt hours per day. Remember that 1 barrel of oil is approximately equal to 1.64 megawatt hours of electricity. Thus, in 2007, the total primary energy production from Danish wind was about 11,800 barrels of oil equivalent per day. Now let's compare that to Denmark's oil and gas production. In 2007, the country's oil production was about 314,000 barrels per day. Natural gas production was almost 900 million cubic feet per day, or about 164,000 barrels of oil equivalent per day. Add in the 94,000 barrels of oil equivalent that the Danes use in the form of coal, and the math is clear. Denmark's hydrocarbon diet consists of about 572,400 barrels of oil equivalent per day. Atlantic Monthly's Joshua Green trumpeted Denmark's freedom from imported oil, but he didn't mention the country's coal imports, nor did he mention the country's ongoing drilling programs in the North Sea. Nevertheless, the facts, not the hype, show that the Danes are about as reliant on hydrocarbons as the United States and other countries. In some ways, they are worse off than the United States when it comes to energy. The Danes themselves have begun to take note of the high cost of wind power and its inability to make significant reductions in carbon dioxide emissions. The conclusion to be drawn is clear. Although Denmark has repeatedly been held up as a model to be copied, the numbers tell a markedly different story. But then few policymakers have bothered to look closely at what actually happened in Denmark. Instead, they've been seduced by the easy charms of Dallas billionaire T. Boone Pickens, who has launched a multi-million-dollar media campaign aimed at promoting, well, T. Boone Pickens. Given the credulity with which politicians and media types gobbled up the Pickens plan, it's obvious that old PTB would be proud of TBP. PTB, I imagine, means P.T. Barnum, who would be proud of T-Bone Pickens. So that was chapter 10, and basically it's saying that that Denmark, everything or most of what's being said about Denmark is hype. And that when you take a closer look at Denmark, and this is again more of a sanity check, is it true that Denmark is everything that it is cracked up to be, so to speak? And no, it isn't. Basically, you could sum this up by saying, and what they're doing here, the dynamic of this, and this is very, very important, is that the left, let's say Nancy Pelosi, is doing here by promoting Denmark and all this green energy, is to, number one, put us on the defensive, is to get us to try to prove a negative, prove that alternative energy sources are not good for this country. And that's basically what the author is trying to do here, which foolish, shame on him for even trying to do that. And and then the second part of this is, again, to bully and intimidate us the old-fashioned way by saying somebody else is doing X, we should follow them. We should emulate them. And that's the way to get yourself in a lot of trouble. If this person is not doing exactly what you think they're doing, maybe there's some other issues, maybe they're actually doing something that's immoral or illegal, you're going to end up finding yourself in a bunch of trouble. Your mother and my mother used to say all the time, if your friends jumped off a bridge, would you do it? As you come home and you're in trouble, well, why'd you do this? Well, it's because my friends were doing it. Well, if your friends jumped off a bridge, would you? So I think that's an excellent slogan in regards to Denmark. Is have that on a T-shirt or a bumper sticker. If Denmark jumped off of a bridge, would you? So that's because that's what they're doing here. The left is doing, is trying to bully and intimidate us into meeting a standard that we don't need to meet. It doesn't matter. Even if Denmark was everything it was cracked up to be, the question still is, so what? So what? So Denmark's doing this or that or the other thing. So it's the happiest place on earth. So what? Which I still doubt that supposedly the Danes are the happiest people on earth, and I doubt it, because if it's such a wonderland, why aren't people emigrating there? Particularly Americans. Why aren't we fleeing the United States to go live in Denmark? Nobody's moving to Denmark. The Europeans aren't moving to Denmark. Okay, the Dutch don't want to move to Denmark. Germans don't want to move to Denmark. The English don't want to move to Denmark. So it can't be everything that it's all the hype says it is. Okay, but again, the point is that you understand, number one, that this is an intimidation campaign, and that's why we want to do away with all. I've done away with all the statistics in this book as much as possible. I've thrown a few for continuity's sake. But it's his book, Power Hungry, is full of charts. He's got part of his table of contents is a list of charts and graphs. So if you want to get into that kind of thing, it's there. If you need that for a sense of confidence that this is a book that's well researched, then it is there. But it's not necessary, because we don't have to prove that wind power is not viable or that wind power is not good for. They have to prove that wind power is better than what we have now. The status quo is petroleum. It is oil, it is natural gas, and it is coal. So, hydrocarbons, I guess, is the way you would express that. So, remember that. That's the status quo, and that's what we promote, the status quo. Another good way to promote the status quo, see if you can find a T-shirt with a Mobil, Exxon, or Arco, or Shell insignia on it, and wear that around proudly. So, the last thing I wanted to say about this, everybody's on about carbon. What's your carbon footprint? Carbon is not a greenhouse gas. It's never been, and it never will be. Don't take my word for it. Look up the greenhouse effect. Go to Wikipedia, look it up. Greenhouse effect. The greenhouse effect is an effect that takes place 8 to 11 miles high in the sky, in the troposphere, what's known as the troposphere. Okay, carbon dioxide travels along the ground. Okay, so carbon dioxide never has been, isn't today, and never will be a greenhouse gas. The only reason that the left likes to latch onto it is because it gives them a plausible reason or explanation for why they need to regulate human activity. It's a perfect way, by the way, to start controlling human population. The left has always been on and on about population explosions, and we've got too many people for this planet, and that we're not going to have enough food, and there's going to be widespread starvation, none of which has actually happened. So, but if they want to control the output of carbon dioxide, ultimately they're going to have to deal with these over 6 billion people that live on this planet, and that's a very scary scenario. So I don't want to have to account to some bureaucrat somewhere about my carbon so-called footprint. You know, how many children I have and that kind of nonsense. I don't want to have that kind of situation. And the way we avoid it is by making the presumption for the status quo. We go to the people on the left, our friends or neighbors, and we tell them, hey, oil's just fine. Everything in our lives is great the way it is. We have smartphones, and we have smartphones because of power. And it is hydrocarbons that deliver that power. What's wrong with that? And make them prove to you that renewable energy is superior in delivering power. They've rigged the game in saying that the standard is carbon footprint, that it's superior because it has a lower carbon footprint, and that's what we should be. That's the ruler by which we should be measuring all energy or power sources. Wrong. If you allow them to do that, you can't win the argument. You have to make sure that the argument is centered around power. What is going to deliver reliable, on-demand power? More when I get back. Thank you. So, as an example of one of the things that I keep talking about, which is our attitudes, cultural attitudes about work and how they've changed. It used to be in this country that the slogan was idle hands are the devil's workshop. Now, the operating slogan is work sucks, but I need the bucks. Okay, and there's huge differences in the attitude behind those two slogans. In the first example, the attitude makes the presumption for work, for employment, for being gainfully employed, not for the money, but as a character builder, as a way of building your character, which means that you take work and you take whatever work you can do reasonably, even if it's something you hate, even if it's something you can't stand. Then you go ahead and take care. You go ahead and do that. Okay, and that's where we get to the idea where you don't accept government handouts. You may go, if you need handouts, you go to your church, you go to a local charity, and you get those handouts there instead of getting them from the government. But the basic point is the presumption is made for employment and not for the money, but for the building of character. Whereas the other one makes the opposite. It says it makes a presumption for idleness, for large amounts of leisure time, and that work is just a very short-term means to a material end. Work sucks, but I need the bucks because I got to pay the bills, and I got to pay my children's expenses, etc., etc. So now, how does that apply to today? And what's going on today? One of the things going on today is we're right back to where we started in terms of the unemployment, where now you're getting those $600 a week supplements, and we're right back. Because everywhere I go, even though the economy's starting to open up, everywhere I go every day, I see help wanted signs: help wanted, help wanted, help wanted, help wanted. You know, and I thought that was kind of curious. At first I thought, well, maybe they're getting ready to expand. But what it turns out is that the people that are on unemployment, and because the new rules are, if you're unemployed and it's you're making the claim that it's because of COVID-19, you don't have to go back to work. You don't even have to look for work, because after all, the government has shut down ostensibly all the employment opportunities. So, whereas it used to be that if you were, again, the presumption was made for work in that, yes, we'll give you unemployment, but you got to be out beating the bushes looking to get a job. Okay, so now we've come, let's say, full circle, where we've completed the idea that work sucks, but I need the bucks, in that if you're looking at work as only a source of income, a source of money, and not as a character builder, and the government is going ahead and paying you, in essence, $50,000 a year to sit on your ass and do nothing, and you have the attitude that, again, work is something that is an unavoidable evil, then you're not going to go to work. You're going to just sit around, and you're also going to get involved in some various types of mischief. There are lots of people around that are taking their cars out for a spin and just being completely irresponsible out on the roads, zipping in and out of traffic, squealing tires, that kind of thing. There's also people that are going out and using their excess money, their spendable income, to buy fireworks. And so now you have the spectacle of like last 4th of July, where it went on, I guess, for a couple of days, where it was just nonstop fireworks. Even though the government had said, don't do that. Please don't do that. All of L.A. was lit up. They had a helicopter out and about, and all of L.A. was lit up. So you got people doing that. And I imagine that they're also probably buying drugs, buying dope, buying cocaine, heroin, whatever it is that they want or need to get. So that's the difference. That's the realistic difference that those two attitudes make. And so one of the things that we need to promote as true conservatives is work, and not work for its own sake. Work as ennobling, as something ennobling, a way of building character, rather than work as only a means to a financial end. Because after all, you think about it, if all you need is money, then why not steal it? Right? I mean, the only reason you're going to work is because you need money, then you may as well just go ahead and go out and steal it. Doesn't make any sense to do otherwise. So we end up with a lot of theft that's going on, a lot of fraud that's going on. Some companies that are doing that make promises and then just lie to making promises they have no intention of keeping. They'll lie to your face. I've had that with phone companies that promise one thing and deliver nothing. So, but anyways, that's what we as true conservatives need to promote. Work, and work for work's sake, because it is ennobling, because it will, it's a character builder, not because it is simply and only a means to a financial end. Back in a minute. Thank you. That brings me to the conclusion of another episode of The Drill. Be honest, be smart, be beautiful, and remember that the left has no authority, no power, and it can't win.